Sometimes the best thing to do is to walk away. Let's go.
Hey guys, it's Matt with Roguish, and today I'm bringing you my review for Far Cry 5, which is the latest installment in Ubisoft's Far Cry franchise. Now before we begin, I do want to mention that I have completed the main story. I haven't done every single mission, but I've done pretty much the whole story. It took about 28 hours of gameplay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
Now I see.
So just to give a brief synopsis of the story without spoiling any of it, you play the sheriff's deputy in fictional Hope County, Montana. You're assigned to bring in Joseph Seed, aka the Father, who is the leader of a doomsday religious cult who's been terrorizing the entire county. Each of Joseph's 3 siblings control a section in the entire county. We have Jacob, who controls the Whitetail Mountains, John, who controls the Holland Valley, and Faith, who controls the Henbane River. As you explore the open world, you do missions in each region of the map, and you'll level up with your reputation points in each region. When you level up enough times, you'll trigger events with each of the siblings until you're finally ready to take one of them head on, and then eventually Joseph. Hope County is a very dynamic environment. There's a lot of freedom of choice with this game, whether that be liberating cult outposts or side missions, or even exploring prepper stashes, which have a lot of sick loot. The size of the map may not be as big as other Far Cry games, but what we have in this world is a pretty interesting setting. It's very different from other games that we've gotten in the Far Cry series before. It's got very open, beautiful scenery, and even though there's a pretty straightforward story here, the game doesn't really hold your hand with exploration. In fact, you're allowed to tackle any mission and explore any region the way you want. I ended up seeing a lot of different locations throughout the county. It didn't even occur to me until my friend mentioned it that they got rid of the minimap from previous games, which I think is a very interesting touch. It helps actually with the exploration aspect. Now there are a few missions here and there where you have to play the way the developers want you to play it, with like tedious vehicle missions or stealth only compound liberations, but pretty much most of the time you're allowed to play the way you want. Now there are a few useful changes here and there in this game, but this is pretty much a standard Far Cry game. There's really not much innovation this time around. When it comes to shooting mechanics as well as vehicle mechanics, it's very straightforward, very standard. I mean, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. But a new addition to this game is called the Guns for Hire system. Essentially, when you meet certain NPCs, you can actually enlist them to help you with missions. Once you keep playing the game and going through the story, you'll meet specialists who have specific talents that can help you, like, for example, Nick Rye, the fire pilot, or Grace Armstrong, the sniper. One cool thing I want to mention about this is that when you get killed in the environment, your NPC can actually revive you, and you can revive them as well. And if they die, they'll spawn back in a few minutes. There's also the co-op function, where you and your buddy can play the story mode together. Keep in mind, whoever is the host will have their progress saved, but not for the guest. For someone like me who's pretty much finished the main story, it's not going to be an issue if I help my buddy finish his progress. Since you're playing a side protagonist this time around, they've provided character customization at the very beginning of the game. Once you start the game, you can choose your gender, you can also choose your race, the way your face is going to look, your hair, and your hair color. But other than different clothing options that you can earn later on and purchase with in-game currency, there really isn't much customization here. It's pretty weak. In fact, honestly, in the end, it doesn't matter because you're not going to be able to see your character since the game is pretty much in first person only. Your buddy can see you in co-op, and you can also see your character in the customization menu and also when you die. There are certain challenges you can do in the game, and when you play them, you can earn perk points. These points can be used to upgrade your character by unlocking certain abilities as well as gadgets. Let's say if you have 6 perk points, you could choose whether to have a master lock picking now or choose to carry more assault rifle ammo. As well as you can unlock the parachute, grappling hook, and wingsuit, just to name a few things. You can also earn perk points as well as in-game currency by doing challenges like killing cult VIPs or hunting or even fishing. You can also earn special collectibles scattered throughout the world, as well as earn perk points through Far Cry Arcade. More on that in a little bit. Now you can use your in-game currency to buy different weapons as well as attachments for those weapons. You can also buy different vehicles as well as clothing. Similar to clothes, however, there's a pretty lackluster assortment of weapons this time around, but there's some pretty cool stuff like the snub-nosed double-barrel shotgun or the compound bow. Vehicles could be a little bland, but there are some pretty cool ones that can be earned from prepper stashes as well as even story missions like the Widowmaker.
Hit those sons of bitches. Better yet, honk that horn every time you do, so I know when to cheer.
Now, one thing I do think is pretty dumb, as well as something I think a lot of people are going to have an issue with, is that this game has microtransactions for the single player mode. My goodness, come on guys. But it's not as bad as, let's say, Shadow of War, where it tries to force loot boxes down your throat. In fact, it's not as bad as loot boxes this time. It's what's called silver bars. So you can either purchase a weapon for in-game currency, or you can buy it with silver bars. In the end, this is just an extremely useless microtransaction system, because pretty much every weapon I wanted to unlock and buy, I earned from the in-game currency when doing missions. I don't really know what they were thinking with the silver bars. I think they just kind of wanted to see if they can monetize on this game even more. In-game currency can also be earned and transferred to the story mode from Far Cry Arcade. Speaking of which, Far Cry Arcade is a separate online mode where you can create and play custom maps with assets provided by the developers. This is very similar to Doom 2016's Snap Map Editor, and this has also been explored in previous Far Cry games, but it's a lot more fleshed out here. You can pretty much build your entire map on a blank canvas. You can insert different weather patterns, as well as different NPCs and weapons in different game modes, like Journey, which is going in and out through different areas trying to reach the exit, or an outpost. And even though the game has only been out for about a week and a half, there are some really good maps right now that you can play, and I can see a lot of potential in the future for some amazing game modes. You can also play different maps on single player, co-op, or multiplayer. Now with my main points out of the way, I wanted to talk about a few smaller things, some good and some bad. First of all, the acting from some of the NPCs is pretty weak. I mean, some characters are great, like the sheriff as well as Pastor Jerome, but some characters are just kind of dumb. I mean, there are characters that are meant to be dumb, and then there are some that just come off as dumb when they're not supposed to. I really enjoyed all the villains this time around, though. I would have to say Jacob is probably my favorite. His story missions can be a little repetitive, but in the end they make sense in the context of the story, and he had really fleshed out motivations. Faith is also pretty interesting, and I ended up feeling sympathy for her at some points. But I would have to say that John was probably the weaker of the three. He wasn't terrible, mind you. In fact, the actor did a great job portraying how charismatic and twisted he was. But it just seemed like he was the whiny little brother that no one liked. He was just trying to impress Joseph a little too much. Which, I mean, kind of fits in the story, but his boss fight was most definitely the weakest out of the three. Of course, Joseph Seed is the best character in the entire game. Greg Burke, the actor portraying Joseph, did an amazing performance. I mean, not surprised. These guys gave us Voss and Pagan Min. And right now, I believe it's a little too soon to say that he's gonna join that ranking of the villains, because they're such great villains. But he gave an amazing performance, and I ended up understanding a lot of his motivations and seeing why he is the way he is. Some of the enemy AI are actually pretty smart. There are different types of soldiers, like some specialize with sniping, and some heavies go as far as to smack you with their LMGs if you get too close, which is just amazing. Also, they can revive certain enemies that you've downed. On the contrary to this, a lot of the allied NPC are really dumb. Sometimes they wouldn't follow orders or do simple things like get in a car when I needed them to. And some, like Sharky, even lit me on fire when enemies were too close. It got pretty annoying really fast and needs to be fixed in future games. There are some NPCs that you can meet, however, that say some really hilarious stuff.
If them Obama-loving libtards find out I can't look after my own property, I can kiss this Senate run goodbye.
Another issue I had is that they removed a lot of animations from previous Far Cry games. I really don't know why. Really, the only healing animation you get is just wrapping your arms in the med kit or patting the fire out. The healing animations were a huge staple in the Far Cry series, so I really just still don't understand why they did that. Also, this isn't really that big of an issue, but there's a lack of weather patterns in the main story, although there are different weather patterns you can choose from in the arcade mode, which I don't really understand. Also, I came across a few glitches and bugs here and there, but nothing that was game breaking. There were a couple times where the frame rates would drop and then the audio would cut out, and then I glitched through the map one time, which was just hilarious. One thing I do want to mention that's positive is the sound design in this game. The gun noises and explosions are just amazing. Ambient sounds from the wilderness also help make the world a lot more immersive. And the soundtrack and music in this game is just amazing. There's the original score by Dan Romer, and then there's different bands and artists who do reinterpretations of the music. There's also Wheaties Radio Station, which has a lot of grunge rock as well as country songs on there. And Eden's Gate even has their own choir station led by Faith. It just is a nice touch. Now, before this game came out, it garnered a lot of controversy on whether this was a Christian killing simulator or a Trump supporter killing simulator. It's not that at all. These guys are very far detached from being Christians or Trump supporters. Let's just get that out of the way. While some people were complaining about this game being too political, some outlets once the game came out say that this game isn't political enough. Look, Ubisoft knows what they're doing here. They know their audience. They know you just want to play the game. You don't have to worry about politics every day. And honestly, I think it's a smart move on their behalf. There's a little bit of social commentary regarding politics and religion, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. I do want to briefly talk about the ending, but again, no spoilers. There are multiple endings like in previous games, and I chose the one that I'm going to call the longer one. I see people online who have a problem with this ending, but I personally enjoyed how it ended, and I thought it fit very well with the story. Perhaps in a few weeks after this review, I'll give my in-depth thoughts on the ending. In summary, I had an absolute blast with Far Cry 5. It's been a long time since I've played a game that actually felt like a $60 experience. The story, while flat in some areas, is engaging in others. The open world sandbox exploration is great, and the setting is a nice departure from other Far Cry games. The gameplay and mechanics are pretty standard for Far Cry games. The NPCs need some work, but figuring out different ways to take out enemies was very satisfying in the long run. More innovation for the next installment is welcome, but what's new here is noticed and very appreciated. Great soundtrack, great acting by the villains, great sound design. I forgot to mention that there are actually a ton of Easter eggs to look for around the map that will be a lot of fun for people to do. And there were 3 new DLC stories being released in the Season Pass as well as Far Cry Arcade. I can see many people enjoying this game for a while after release, myself included. My final verdict for Far Cry 5 is an 8 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this review, make sure you leave a like, and also if you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This is our first review on the channel, and we're pretty new to this stuff, but we're going to try to get better over time. If you have any suggestions or constructive criticism, leave it down in the comment section below. Also, what did you think about Far Cry 5? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thanks again for watching. More videos are coming soon. We'll see you guys later.
But I'm gonna be butt ass naked so the wind could just be hitting my balls and shit. Hey bro, watch your jet. Watch your jet, bro. Watch your jet!